I made that mistake. I'm guilty of that huge. And just expecting my partner to provide all of my emotional needs, right? Like, let alone I wasn't even taking care of myself emotionally. Now I'm putting all of that emotional woundage and baggage onto somebody else. It's like, A, it's not fair. And no wonder things worked out sort of the way that they worked out. For you, is it a framework thing? Is it a purpose thing? Like when it comes to what it is that you're doing with guys and why you're doing it, and to try and sum up sort of your message, does it come down to a framework, a belief, an ethos, a mindset? Like, what do you feel like it's all sort of built around?
Yeah, it does now, but it definitely didn't start that way. I had to kind of fumble my way through the dark for about 20 years to sort of figure out like what did the framework actually look like? And just the fact that it took me that long to be able to figure it out, I think is kind of a reinforcement of the fact of like, as men, we don't really know how to do this anymore. It's just the lost art. It's kind of a foreign skill set. And so, yeah, it does take time. And I think that was kind of my motivation for starting to build a framework was just to say, we need some help here. Guys need it put into a little bit simpler nuts and bolts. But yeah, the framework essentially is a model that I call tribe.
Well, were there moments though throughout, like, the listeners have heard all about my relationship and kids and parenting and like all that whole arc. But like for you, was there an arc? Was it a moment? Like, how did that come about?
Yeah, it was, I would say, a series of intense moments in my 20s and then a slow building arc from there. But yeah, when I was kind of in my like college and early 20 years, I found myself in a place where I was just really living basically a double life. So I was in college, I was involved in pretty much everything like leadership and faith based that you could find on campus. Like I was kind of like the stand up good guy, trying to live a life that looked like that and model that for others. And on the side, at the same time, found myself getting deeper and deeper into an addiction to internet porn. And at that time, to date myself a little bit, internet porn was still basically a new thing. I mean, high speed internet was a new thing at that point in time. So it wasn't,
You actually had to download stuff
yeah, it's wild.
that, like, back in the day where you you had to store it to your hard drive.
Yeah. Can't imagine what cloud, there was no such thing. Yeah, these were the days of Napster. File sharing was as close as we got to anything. So at that point in time, internet porn wasn't talked about the way that it is today. It was still very much a taboo, kind of hidden thing in the culture. It was sort of just emerging, despite the fact that, every guy I was around was using it as well. Nobody really talked about it. But for me, I was especially not talking about it because I had this lifestyle that I was kind of putting up front that was really different than what was going on behind the scenes. And I just really kind of got to a place where I felt like I had tried everything to quit. Like that was not something that I wanted to be part of my life. It didn't feel like that was true to how I wanted to live and who I wanted to be, but it had its claws sunk pretty deep into me. And so for me, the process, I just really kind of came to a place of desperation after trying every bit of willpower that I possibly knew how to imagine, from taking the door of my dorm room off its hinges, or like giving my roommates in my apartment complex the password to my computer so that I couldn't log on without one of them helping. Like I was doing everything and none of it was really working. And so I just kind of got to a place of desperation with God and just was trying to say, like, hey, I don't know what to do here, but if you can get me out of this, then I'll do whatever it is that you would ask of. And I meant that. But the one thing in the back of my mind that I really did not want to have to do was to talk to somebody else about it. And sure enough, that was the very thing, of course, that he asked me to do. I can remember it real clearly. I felt like I heard from God. I felt just, kind of in my heart, felt like he told me that I needed to confess it. And I knew that wasn't something that he meant that I just needed to do to him, because I'd done that 1,000 times over, but that I really needed to confess it to somebody else. And so, with a lot of fear and hesitation, and just like kind of unwillingly going into it, I found a friend that I felt like I could trust and had a really hard conversation with him, just sort of bearing my soul and talking about all the ways that I was dealing with this and how much of an issue it had become for me, and that it was causing me to skip classes and miss out on relationships. I mean, just all the ways that porn had really kind of taken over my life. And that conversation did a number of things for me. One, it didn't kill me, which is what I thought was going to happen. I really didn't expect to come out on the other side with sanity or reputation or anything intact. But I did. And in fact, my friend was actually really kind and gracious and understanding, and actually told me, like, hey, just this week have talked to a couple other guys who are dealing with exactly the same thing that you're dealing with. And so for me, that was like, I just didn't understand. I couldn't imagine that kind of like compassion from him and just peace that sort of came over me. That did not like solve my porn addiction overnight, although it did provide me with a real season of freedom. I think for the first time, I kind of felt like I had this weight lifted off of my shoulders. And that conversation with him really began the process for me of saying, okay, there's something to this openness, honesty, vulnerability with other people, with other guys in particular, that I need to make a part of my life. Like whatever the pathway to freedom looks like here, it's going to have to include that. And so that's really kind of where I started, was just saying, all right, I got to figure out how to do this. I started having some of those same kind of conversations with other guys. Some of them went well, some of them went not as well. I wouldn't say any of them went like terribly, but some people were more understanding than others. Some people were more helpful than others. But all along the way, it was helping me not only find more freedom from porn, which is what I really wanted, but it was also helping me develop relationships that I was like really enjoying. I was getting closer to these guys who were not just like helping me get free from porn, but were actually becoming really good friends. I was enjoying spending time with them and we had things in common and we talked about it. And it's like life all of a sudden got richer in ways that I wasn't expecting because of how these conversations and these friendships were developing. So all of that kind of began to paint the picture for me of this is a lifestyle that I want. This is something that is going to have to be essential for me. And I think it probably is for a lot of other guys as well. We just don't know it yet. And that kind of started me on the journey of, all right, what does it look like to have guys in my life where we're having these kinds of conversations regularly, where we're challenging one another to get better at the things that we want to get better at and figure out life together. So yeah, that was the initial sort of impetus. And then it's been just a long kind of journey ever since then, really figuring out like, hey, what I started to figure out about the whole porn issue was that it was really a manhood issue. It wasn't just like, it wasn't really about sex. It was about like, who am I as a man? Am I actually trying to become who I want to be? And what am I reaching out for in this porn thing that is really about filling some other holes that I wasn't aware of that I had? And all of that was related to manhood. And so I started asking some questions about, well, what does it mean to be a man? And I started asking my friends the same thing. And none of us knew. We didn't have an answer. And so all of that kind of rolled into the same journey of just saying, all right, I need to try to figure out what it is that I'm actually looking for as a man and in trying to be a man. And I need to build some other male friends around me who are wanting to do the same.